Hi, welcome to the second episode of my VMworld CEO tour. I just came from the office down the street from Nutanix interviewing Dhiras Panjay. It was the first time that I used my mobile studio, so we did have some technical challenges that still are, but we'll get through this. It's about the content, right? And now I'm at PernixData, very young new company, and welcome Poojan Kumar, or actually. Thank you for having me here. Good day.
Thanks, Hans. Nice to finally meet you.
Yeah, we see you guys so active lately. Might have to do something with Frank Daneman, who is a good friend of the community. But this type of interview is actually looking at the persons behind the company, actually looking at the person behind the CEO. So first of all, give me a run through who is Poojan Kumar today. Who are you today? What fills your personality?
Yeah, thanks, Hans. Let's say this is the first place I came in the US. I came, more than 10 years back, doing my graduate studies in Stanford, computer science. And it's interesting. Back in the day when I was here, one of the classes I took was from Mendel Rosenblum, right? Operating systems. Little did I know that 15 years later I would be doing something to do with virtualization, right? And obviously virtualization has changed the world. Me as a person, again, thanks to the place I am in, I am really engrossed in the beauty of this place. Mm-hmm. I spend a lot of time outside of work, doing hiking, appreciating the nature around me. And obviously, I should say the last 2 years have been extremely busy, thanks to Pernix. But I do take the opportunity to spend a lot of time doing outdoor activities.
You like to disconnect. What do you do in the outsides?
Yeah, so basically, again, growing up, one of the things that's obviously less known about me is one of the only things I did in my teens, very contrary to some other people, at least in this country, was I used to play professional chess in my teens. So it's one of those things, right? You went to go to school, you come back, and you spend 6-7 hours playing chess. And I played professional chess, so I used to play national level chess. I was one of those guys that defeated under 15 world number 3, India number 1, under 15. So much so that when Vishwanathan Anand became the world champion, one of the articles written in a local newspaper basically talked about me. He mentioned me and said that one of those guys who if he did not leave chess might have been a grandmaster level guy. So putting some perspective into it, so the guy who's not really physically active, those guys who used to just sit on a chair and play a lot of chess.
But a strategy player.
Yeah, really a strategy player, and hopefully some of that is coming into play right now in my role. But essentially somebody who can think multiple levels down without even touching the board. A real chess player, and a lot of people are very amused when I say this. A real chess player, for him, there's no difference between looking at the board and not looking at the board. It's basically everything is in your head. So from there, and the reason I bring up the story is from there to today, where a person who likes outdoors, person who likes to play squash, person who likes to go mountain biking, has a wife who also has a very focused job as a dentist in the valley, and she also likes to disconnect and say, instead of focusing in those 32 teeth. And now comes the weekend, and both of us like to really enjoy our surroundings.
Disconnecting in the nature.
Yes.
Oh wow! So that's who you are today. How did you become Poojan Kumar of today? And what's your story of education? Of where did you grow up? Actually, you already said we grew up in India, and then you come here, or did something happen in between? What happened through your education and maybe the first years of being here in the valley?
Yeah, maybe I'll start off with India. Right, grew up in a middle class family in a town called Hyderabad in India, and one of the things one of the big reasons I left chess that I spoke about is to get into this prestigious school called IIT. Now IIT is a school, and back in the day there were only 5 of these IITs, and you had to write an exam which 100,000 people write, and about 100 of them get into the computer science course. And so I was one of those 100, fortunate one of those 100 people who got into a computer science course in its first attempt, right? So extremely hard. Until today, it's one of the most competitive exams out there.
1 in 1,000 people. That's a very high ratio.
It is. It's
very small ratio.
Very
sorry.
small.
Yeah. Actually, we had the same story with Dheeraj just an hour ago. No,
in fact, Dheeraj also 2-3 years before me went through this thing. So he went to a different IIT. I went to IIT Bombay, and again, 100% of my class, I should say, the computer science class, which was only about 25-30 of the 100 I'm talking about, ended up coming to the United States. It's
really?
like, you kind of look at this from a dream perspective. It's like, okay, I've done this is something I've done well, and now what next?
A natural evolution is coming somewhere in the United States and doing computer science here.
Exactly, basically coming and pursuing the Silicon Valley dream, and what better place to pursue that next step in the dream other than Stanford, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I was fortunate again to be one of those guys. And again, so let's look at the statistics here, right? So 100,000 people, 100 of them getting computer science, and out of these 100 people, maybe 5 people make it to Stanford computer science. So again, I was very fortunate to be among those small set of people who ultimately made it to Stanford. And again, Stanford I would say changed my life in multiple respects. From a pure technology perspective, learning engineering, doing those tireless night outs at this infamous place called Sweet Hall, where people basically spend all through the night, multiple days in a row, getting their programming assignments done, and just being in the center of the valley.
Yeah, exactly. You're a student, but you're a student in the valley.
Exactly.
You're a student in the epicenter of startups and where new technology gets. Actually, there's a lot of technology that comes out of Stanford also.
Yeah.
Right.
And at some level, I would say the PernixData story kind of started then, because as I mentioned, one of the things I did there was take Mendel's course on virtualization, on basically operating systems. And one of the guys I met while I was in Stanford was my co-founder, Satyam Vaghani.
Mm-hmm.
So we basically were kind of off by a couple of quarters, but that's where I met Satyam. And we did some courses together, some interesting program assignments together, and here you go, 15 years later.
But I don't think you come from Stanford to PernixData with Satyam like that, right?
Yes.
What did you do in between?
Yeah, there's obviously a long story in between. So after graduating from Stanford, and again, while I was in Stanford, I should say that just by the nature of being in the valley, is so much going on in the startup ecosystem that I almost dropped out of school to do a startup back in the day. But fortunately, before I dropped out, the bubble burst, and so I went on to complete my education in Stanford, and then my first job out of Stanford was Oracle. So I started my career in Oracle, building the enterprise infrastructure software in the form of databases. And databases, again, it's multiple meanings to it. I was always the guy who was the distributed file system storage sort of a guy for databases. And that's when again I was very fortunate to be at some level at Oracle at the right time. And my claim to fame in the years I spent at Oracle, because it's very easy to get lost in a big company like Oracle in general, but my claim to fame was I jump-started this initiative which today is called Exadata. And Exadata essentially is responsible for more than 2 billion of Oracle revenues, and the only thing that Ellison talks about for the last 5-6 years.
So by heart, you're still actually a real engineer.
Yes, by heart I'm an engineer. And that's what I'm passionate about, is building something that solves a real problem and that can basically change customer lives. Obviously people have different kind of motivations when they do things, but my motivation has always been to build something that that I can essentially leave a legacy. So Exadata was that, and Exadata was that I would say in the protected environment of Oracle, right, where you could build a very good product, and at the end of the day there were still 10,000 salespeople who could go and sell it if you build the right thing. And so we built the right thing. I started it, led the whole engineering effort for Exadata version 1, and everything else is history now, at least with Exadata.
Yeah.
So that was Exadata. And then 2 years before Pernix, I was in VMware. And so between Exadata and VMware, I did a startup. So this is actually my second startup. Little is known about the previous one, because I went and did something out of infrastructure in video ad insertion. and I couldn't quite make it, but I've seen both the extremes. I would say and that's what Silicon Valley is all about. So that was the other startup, and then 2 years in VMware, which gave me a different perspective on how the infrastructure space is, because in Oracle it's a very different thing. It's all about the physical world, right? It's very little virtualization that happens within Oracle. Of course, it's changing as we speak, and so VMware was a completely different place. And again, I had an amazing 2 years at VMware, and which is where I reconnected. I would say.
Actually, being at VMware gave you the idea, maybe together with Satyam, to start Pernix. So where does PernixData come in play? What happened up until today? Because actually, I don't really have to talk about 2012, 2013, or where your company was a year ago. You almost weren't there a year ago. Well, you were in R&D, of course,
right.
But you did GA just a few weeks ago.
Yes.
You came out of stealth less than half a year ago.
Yes.
So what happened in the last year? How did you start? How did you come together with Satyam to build PernixData? What happened up until today? How big are you?
Yeah, so a little bit of the background. So Exadata for me was all about solving a performance problem, right? At the end of the day, if we did one thing well with Exadata was give customers a way to get 10 to 30x improvements in the data warehousing environments, today called big data, right? Come to virtualization, we all know that virtualization has really changed the world in the last decade, and it created a very big problem from a storage performance perspective. So now again, we looked at what's going on out there, and of course Satyam's expertise was squarely in this also, because he basically built out all of VMware's storage infrastructure as we know today, starting from the distributed file system to everything that VMware is known for on the storage stack. And so we came together and we said we need to solve the storage performance problem for virtualization, and we want to solve it in a way where we solve it for every virtualized data center out there. And looking at everything out there, we were like, okay, we need to solve it with a software-based approach. We need to solve it not by necessarily building yet another primary storage solution, and so that led to the birth of PernixData, and that's where we stand today. So again, rewinding back about year and a half, 2 years, two people started the company in early 2012. And today, fast forwarding, we are a 50 people company, and as you mentioned, a product that's gone GA, came out of stealth about 6 months back, and fortunately, a lot of what we have done has resonated very well with our customer base, and with folks like yourself who are experts in the community, and this is where we are.
Yeah, so going back a little bit to the person as such, what has been your biggest challenge up until today? And specifically, and that's the more important question for me, is what's your challenge as CEO, as Poojan, for the next 12 months? So if I come back to you and the week before VMworld 2014, what has been your challenge? What is the next 12 months going to look like? What is your biggest challenge as a CEO?
Yeah, so it's kind of related. So last year and a half, we have innovated at a very fast pace. We have hired the best of the best from an engineering perspective, sales, marketing, you just name it. Now it's about replicating, that growth from 2 people to 50 people. Now it's about replicating the same growth for the next year. So we have obviously aspirations to be, at least double the size, if not more, in the next 12 months, and a lot more than that in the next 24 months. And it's also about getting this product in the hands of every customer out there. From a goal perspective, what we have built today is really applicable horizontally to the whole market, whether it's a very small customer or a very large customer. Similar to how VMware was, right? A disruptive technology, but extremely non-disruptive from an adoption perspective. And so this is this thing that we are in today. And what my challenge is going to be for the next 12 months, in addition to building the team, continuing to build the world-class people that we have gotten in the last 1.5 years, but also making sure that this technology gets what it deserves, being in the hands of every VI admin out there. Okay,
so actually one of the predictions I had is that last year Nutanix was a big buzz at VMworld. That was like the company everyone looked at. We in the community talked a lot about Nutanix, and I think that might be what's happening for PernixData today. You might get I think that's something that will happen at VMworld. You'll get a lot of traction, community people that want to talk to you, bloggers that want to see the product. Some of them are installing it, so looking forward to that. Any specifics? So how important is that I know that it's built for VMware today. Is that your primary focus, or is the focus to solve it for VMworld and going wider later on? What's your how important is VMware as a company and the VMware community for PernixData today and tomorrow?
Yeah, so on the VMworld side, again, definitely this is our first VMworld after coming out of stealth. We were there in the last VMworld, but it was like pretty much Satyam and me kind of building our alpha customer pipeline at last VMworld. So this is the first time with the product GA. So it's the most important event of the year for us. So really looking forward to that. From an ecosystem perspective, again, we are right now centered all around VMware, and this is great because if you look at talk to all the VI admins out there, one of the first things that comes in mind when they want to virtualize any mission critical workload is something to do with I/O performance, and that's where we fit in. So from a virtualization perspective, we really help VMware as a hypervisor to get into workloads that it has never gone into, like the SAP stuff, the Oracle stuff,
yes,
things like that. So this is very interesting. So VMware obviously is front and center on what we are doing today. And again, as I said, except for some of the service providers that might have started going the KVM route, everybody else that we're talking to, a good 99% of our, all the people that we talk to still want to look at VMware and are only interested in the VMware solution.
There's nothing wrong about focusing on VMware, by the way. If you can solve one of the problems that provider has, that platform has, that's very good. That you don't have to solve everyone's problems, right?
Exactly. But from a platform perspective, we definitely plan to be, just more than VMware. Right? So there's a lot to build on what we are already doing today, and we have aggressive product roadmaps for the next 24 months and 36 months on what we want to do. Continue to out-innovate everybody. But to your point, we also are watching carefully what the market is going towards, whether it's service providers or whether it's the lower-end SMBs. And we are looking at KVM and Hyper-V as a potential next platform that will support going forward.
Yeah. How is VMworld as an event for you? Because VMworld it's more than sessions, right? You just said you have no sessions yet.
Yes.
Maybe that's you're still building some traction in the community and customers. You'll probably be on stage next year then. But what is VMworld like for your company? Where are you focusing at? Where are your people focusing at? But what do you want to get out as a person out of this community event?
Yeah, so actually it's just a small thing. So we have like the brown bag kind of session that our engineers are doing. So obviously looking forward to that. And in general, like this VMworld is the first time we're going to meet a lot of our believers. We have had a beta program running for 150 plus beta customers using this product for the last 6 to 9 months. So it's about saying a big thank you to all of these customers that are going to be visiting us in our booth or in some of the appreciation events that we have scheduled. The other thing we are doing is some of the the vExpert ecosystem with Frank and Duncan and Vaughn and Jason. We have put together a pocket-sized book, which is essentially vSphere tweet-sized vSphere design considerations, and this is the book that we plan to give away every day at 4 p.m. In our booth. Okay. And so this is something that a lot of people are really excited about. And again, we'll have some of these authors coming into our booth and basically giving away the book. Great. And so this is something we're very excited about also.
Looking forward to coming to the booth, because one of the things that I always focus on is the people behind the company and also behind the products, what they feel about it. And again, I said it in the last video also, it's so important not only to go to the sessions, get out of the session what you want, but talking to the people, specifically from the company. Why are they there and what's their passion about technology and the technology they represent today. So Poojan, thank you for your time. Let's hope we have less challenges on the video this time as I had with Dheeraj. But I have 10 more CEOs at least to go, so it's going to be better by the end.
Thanks for doing this. I think this is phenomenal, and good luck for the remainder of the tour, and look forward to seeing you at VMworld.
I'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.